My name is Elizabeth Cernoia. I am a regional team director for Massachusetts and New York. I do campus ministry, but I live in Massachusetts and work most of the time at Fitchburg State. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. In fact, I grew up in a very secular, New Age home. Grew up around seances and tarot cards and all kinds of stuff. I left home when I was 16. I was working, and there was a guy at my work who kind of befriended me, and we started going to lunch together. He was a Christian. One of the things he said to me one day was, "I don't think you're going to find the love you're looking for until you find the love of Christ." And that just hit me. I went home and I got on my knees and I prayed and I asked Jesus into my heart. And I got up and the whole world was different. Everything was different. I went to work the next day. I walked upstairs. I quit my job. I went home. I said to my boyfriend, "We're not breaking up, but I'm moving out." Packed up my car and just headed north. I lived in California and said, "I'm going to stop and see a friend. And if that doesn't work out, I'm just going to keep going and get to my dad's house." And so that really started the journey. In 2009, my husband passed away. It was very, very quick. We had a really traditional marriage. My husband was a worship pastor and worked at a Christian radio station. And so he was the breadwinner, and I was at home homeschooling the kids. And so when he passed, there was no one to provide. And so the first thing that I knew was I've got to figure out how to be able to provide for my family. I think pretty quickly I came to the conclusion that I really still wanted to be a part of building God's kingdom. But I also knew there's no way I was going to be able to be a single mom, work a full-time job, and volunteer. I knew that couldn't happen. So pretty quickly I realized I was going to need to make working with God, working for God, make it my vocation, get paid for it. One of the things I really was able to identify is I always had young people in my life. They just always gravitated to our family. They always were around. I always enjoyed them. They always seemed to enjoy me. And so after that, I was like, okay, I think I really want to do college. A friend of mine was working in Young Life. And so she said, "Well, why don't you work with our graduated seniors who are our leaders?" I said, "Okay, great, I'll do that." So I did that for a little while. But still knew I really wanted to work with college students. Now, a friend of mine was actually moving, and so I went to a goodbye lunch, and she said, "Well, what do you think you're going to do? What's next?" And I said, I think I really want to work with college students, but I have no idea how to even make that happen." She and I had gone to the same church, and that church had formerly been pastored by the director at Campus Ambassadors. She emailed me within a week and said, "I'm so sorry, but I just got their email and I wanted to respond." And so I'm connecting you guys. And our former director at CA actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have a ministry at Worcester State. Would you like to come and see what it's all about?" I show up to a CA event with 3 students. And it was hilarious because later on, Val said to me, "Well, you passed your job interview." So that's what got me into Campus Ambassadors. I definitely would say the main thing that we really experience on campus with students is anxiety and depression, and then probably quickly followed with distraction. I would say those are honestly the top 3. So many of them have to work, and they work to actually help support their families. Even though they're not living at home, they're still expected to help pay the rent or pay for groceries, or their parents will actually take money to pay for gas. So there's a lot more weight on the students that we're around, a lot more stress. I can't imagine them ever going to get tired of campus ministry. Students are just so fascinating. They're so interesting. I love the way that they grapple with faith. They always are asking new questions. Even if it's a question I've heard a million times, they always ask it in a different way. There's always a slightly different spin. I think if there's one thing I could say to people, it would definitely be, don't think that you don't have anything to offer. Students they're desperately looking for relationship. They're looking for mentors. They're looking for people who can love them and be just a peaceful presence in their lives, someone who can be praying for them, listening to them. It breaks my heart to think how much they're struggling with life and how much freedom there is in Christ. We just watched a bunch of students graduate, and to have them just, tears in their eyes, just say, I've just felt so loved. I've felt so seen. I found purpose. I found a community that was not judgmental, that supported me, that prayed with me, that helped me. And that's what the church should be. That's what we should be as a Christian community. So to be able to offer it to these students at such a vulnerable time is just such a gift. I'm so thankful that God's allowed me the opportunity. I got asked, I don't really remember the year, I think 2021, to be the regional team director for Quebec, which by and large mostly is SEMBEC, which is the seminary that's up there, that a Missions Door missionary actually planted more than 50 years ago. We planted that ministry. Now, SEMBEC is just known all over that province and has had such an incredible impact. It's an incredible mission field in our backyard. For those of us on the East Coast, it's not very many hours away, and it's less than 1% evangelical Christian. When I sit and listen to the situations they're in, I can hear echoes of where we are right now. So I feel like it's also opportune for me as a missionary because I can just learn so much from them. I just ask them so many questions. Well, how did you do that? So how have you responded to that? So what do you do then? How do you train your leaders if you have this huge void? What do you do? How do you support each other? How do you stay encouraged when you're just such a small enclave of these evangelical believers? We were able to bring our college campuses up to Quebec for a missions trip. One of the things I loved about that missions trip was learning to be a learner and a listener. Sometimes I'm on home turf. I think I got it all. I think I know what's going on. So Quebec was really good to be up there and to realize, no, I need to learn to be a listener. I need to ask questions. I need to take my time. We need to love our neighbors with Christ's love, If anyone's interested in supporting or connecting or knowing more about any of this, I could probably talk all day about both. They can find me on the Missions Door website. My name is Elizabeth Cernoia, and they could support that way through my personal account, or you are able to email me through the website, and then I can connect you to certain people.